At first glance, the headline sounds reassuring. Consumer confidence is improving. People, at least on paper, are feeling better about the economy. That usually suggests stability, maybe even momentum. It creates the impression that households are adjusting, that fears are fading, and that the economy is holding together better than expected. But the moment you look beyond that single number, the picture becomes a lot less comfortable. Because at the same time confidence is ticking up, job openings are falling and hiring is slowing down in a noticeable way. And when those two things move in opposite directions, it raises a deeper question. Are people actually better off, or are they just feeling better for now? This is what makes consumer confidence such a tricky number. It doesn't measure what people are doing, it measures how they feel, and feelings can change faster than reality. People respond to headlines, to recent trends, to the absence of bad news. Sometimes confidence improves simply because things are not getting worse as quickly as before. That doesn't necessarily mean conditions are strong. It just means they feel less negative in that moment. But the labor market tells a different kind of story. Job openings and hiring are not based on feelings. They reflect actual decisions being made by businesses. When a company decides to hire, it is committing resources. It is signaling confidence in future demand. When hiring slows down, it suggests caution. It suggests that businesses are unsure or that they don't see enough growth ahead to justify expanding their workforce. And right now, that caution is becoming more visible. The drop in job openings matters because it shows that demand for workers is easing. Fewer openings mean fewer opportunities for people to move between jobs, negotiate higher pay, or find better positions. It changes the dynamics of the labor market. Instead of workers having multiple options, those options begin to narrow. And that shift doesn't always show up immediately in unemployment rates, but it changes how secure people feel about their future. Hiring slowing down is even more important. Openings can fluctuate, but hiring reflects actual follow-through. It shows whether businesses are turning demand into real jobs. When hiring falls, it suggests that even when positions exist, companies are being more selective or delaying decisions. It creates a quieter form of slowdown, not dramatic layoffs, but a gradual cooling of opportunity. This is where the contradiction becomes clear. People may say they feel better, but the system that supports their income is becoming less active. Confidence is rising on the surface, while the engine underneath is losing some momentum. And when those two things move in different directions, it usually means one of them is lagging behind reality. Part of the reason this happens is timing. Economic data and human perception don't update at the same speed. Businesses often react first. They adjust hiring plans, slow expansion, and become more cautious before those changes fully reach households. Consumers, on the other hand, respond more gradually. They may still feel stable because they haven't personally experienced a disruption yet. So confidence can remain relatively high even as the labor market begins to soften. There is also a psychological factor at play. After a period of uncertainty or stress, even a small improvement can feel significant. If conditions were worse before, then stabilizing can feel like progress, even if the underlying situation is not particularly strong. That can push confidence numbers higher, even when structural issues are still present. Another reason confidence can feel misleading is that it is influenced by expectations as much as reality. People may believe that things will improve in the future, even if current conditions are mixed. That optimism can lift survey responses, but optimism is not the same as actual improvement. And when expectations run ahead of reality, the gap between how people feel and what is actually happening can widen. The labor market, however, tends to be more grounded. It reflects real decisions tied to cost, demand, and profitability. If businesses are hiring less, it's usually because they're seeing something in the data or in their operations that makes them more cautious. That could be slower sales, higher costs, tighter margins, or uncertainty about the future. Whatever the reason, it signals that the environment is not as strong as confidence numbers might suggest. This matters because the labor market is one of the most important supports for consumer strength. Jobs provide income, stability, and confidence. When hiring is strong, people feel secure not just in their current job, but in their ability to find another one if needed. When hiring slows, that sense of security starts to weaken, even if it doesn't happen immediately. That weakening can show up in subtle ways. People may become more cautious with spending. They may delay large purchases. They may save more or avoid taking on new debt. None of these changes are dramatic on their own, but together they can reduce the overall momentum of the economy. And because these adjustments happen gradually, they lag behind confidence data.
There's also the issue of job mobility. A strong labor market is not just about having a job, it's about having options. It's about being able to move to a better opportunity, negotiate higher pay, or switch roles to improve your situation. When openings decline and hiring slows, that mobility decreases. People stay where they are not because they're thriving, but because the alternatives are less certain. This creates a different kind of pressure. Instead of visible job losses, you get a quieter form of stagnation. Wages grow more slowly, opportunities become harder to find, progress feels slower, and over time, that can affect how people actually experience the economy, even if they initially report feeling okay. Another layer to this story is how businesses manage uncertainty. When conditions become less clear, companies often choose to wait rather than act. They pause hiring, they reassess plans, they conserve resources. This kind of behavior doesn't create immediate headlines, but it reduces the flow of new opportunities. And when enough businesses behave this way at the same time, it shows up in the data as declining openings and hiring. This is why economists tend to pay close attention to these labor market signals. They often move before broader indicators like unemployment or spending. They provide an early look at how businesses are adjusting. And right now, those signals suggest that the labor market is becoming more cautious, even if it is not collapsing. So when you put everything together, the reason consumer confidence still feels fake is not because the number itself is wrong. It's because it is incomplete. It captures sentiment, but not structure. It reflects how people feel today, but not necessarily what the system is setting up for tomorrow. The headline says people feel better, the labor market says businesses are slowing down. And when those two stories don't match, it usually means the economy is in a transition phase. A phase where the surface looks stable, but the foundation is shifting. In the end, confidence can rise for many reasons, but it only becomes meaningful when it is supported by real economic activity. And right now, that support looks less certain than the headline suggests. People may feel better, but the system that supports those feelings is quietly becoming more cautious. And when that happens, the question is not just how people feel today, but how long those feelings can last.